Welcome everyone to this first session, half-day session of the Project Design Brokerage event. Well, my name is Paula de Vera. I'm a senior policy advisor here in Copan Cogeca. We are partners of the project, and I will be conducting the meeting at least until I give the floor to our moderator for the panel later, Mr. Jan Wachten. And first of all, to make the including remarks, the welcome remarks, I want to invite to the stage two people, Erwin Wouters from ILVO and Edgar Garcia Manzanilla from Chagas. Erwin Wouters is an agricultural economist working as senior researcher at the Social Sciences Unit of the Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture, ILVO. His work focuses on understanding the drivers that guide the behavior of individual stakeholders and the systemic determinants of farming systems, and using that knowledge to develop and test strategies and policies such as economic incentives, regulations, and communication tools to stimulate a change towards more sustainable farming systems. One of his topical research lines relates to animal health, whereby he currently focuses on aspects such as prudent use of antimicrobials and better implementation of biosecurity practices. Erwin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula, for this nice introduction. And yeah, on behalf of ILVO and especially on behalf of the whole Disarm Consortium, I warmly welcome you, all of you here, and also the people, I can't see exactly how many, but people online. I welcome you to one of our final events of the Disarm projects, an event targeted towards stakeholders, people active in the animal production value chains. I think, no, I don't think, I'm certain I remember one of our very early, more public events also here at Copa Cogeca. I think, Edgar, you were there as well. I believe you were in the room opposite to this one. It was December 2019. More or less the end of the first year, where we had set everything in place. We had already produced quite some material. We had produced guidelines for offline networking. Luckily, we also produced or we set in place a number of things for online networking. We had big plans. And then, of course, 2 months later, COVID came. During that period, it felt sometimes a bit strange to have or to organize events basically target to regarding bacterial infections when the whole world was kidnapped by a virus. Bacteria were maybe not on top of minds of everyone. But yeah, I remember that moment, and we had quite a lot of plans. And even though COVID, I mean, let's be honest, there were people, or there have been people, individuals or sectors who have been much worse hit by COVID than research and technology and development. But anyways, doing a network project in COVID times has been proven or has proven to be a challenge. But personally, I'm maybe just for one reason, I'm very happy that we are able to have this final event live, physically, that we can see each other, touch each other in appropriate ways. I see some people with strange looks in their eyes, but appropriately touch people and see people. I think we have all been longing for that, to have this occasion. Well, and at this final event, I know that several people of the Disarm Consortium are going to present you in a very brief and concise way what their findings have been, and also, and I want to stress that, what all the material is that they have been producing. So regardless of COVID, they have been producing quite a lot of material, best practice guides, educational videos, best practice abstracts, all material which I'm certain can be of use to many different types of stakeholders, whether you're a policymaker, a farmer, or veterinarian, a supplier to the animal production industry, and everything is just free to use for you. It's all available online and offline. So I'm quite happy that we managed to produce quite a lot of that kind of material. So, and thanks all of you for coming. I wish you a very good day or a very good half day today. And with that, I want to give the the word to Edgar. Edgar has been a very active member of our external scientific advisory board from the beginning. I remember he was there in, I believe it was Paris, our very first project meeting where we invited the external stakeholder board. And since then, I have been discussing regularly, or maybe others in the room, and from the consortium have been discussing a lot with Edgar. So Edgar.
1 minute, because I remember that we forgot to put the video, the disarm video. So we will put it right after Erwin. I present Edgar then. And so please, if we can share the presentation.
The first antibiotic was discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928, marking a new age in effective treatment of bacterial infections. Antibiotics are used to treat disease in humans and animals, but bacteria are becoming more and more resistant to antibiotics as treatments are used excessively and inappropriately. Antibiotic-resistant bacterial infections are difficult or impossible to treat with our current arsenal of antibiotic drugs. Antibiotic resistance is a global issue affecting human and animal health. We all need to do our part to preserve the effectiveness of antibiotics for disease treatments in the future. The Disarm project will bring people together from agricultural sectors across Europe to share knowledge and ideas, both online and in person. It aims to reduce the need for antibiotic treatments in livestock farming by keeping animals healthy, preventing disease, and promoting appropriate, prudent use of antibiotic treatments. Every farm is different, so we will coach teams of farmers, veterinarians, and other advisors to design animal health plans tailored to individual farms. We will also create a database of state-of-the-art knowledge and innovations from farm, industry, and research promoting animal health, and produce informative videos, reports, and fact sheets. Collecting and sharing information across Europe will empower farmers to prevent disease in livestock farming, fostering excellent animal health and well-being. By working together to reduce the need for antibiotic treatments in livestock farming, we are one step closer to protecting the effectiveness of antibiotics for future generations. To find out more, visit our website or follow us on social media.
Thank you very much. Now keep sharing the screen, please. Keep sharing the presentation. And let's go now for the welcoming remarks of Edgar. Edgar has a PhD in veterinary medicine. He finished his degree in 2000 at the Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. He obtained the PhD studying alternatives to antibiotic growth promoters, and then he was technical director of our research service, developing public-private funded projects in pigs and poultry. 2006, he moved to the University of California, Davis to study the relationship between antibiotic use and the development of immune response in poultry. He went back to Barcelona in 2009. He was involved in different projects of managing and analyzing data from commercial farms, and he moved to Ireland in 2014 to the Pig Development Department of Chagas, where he is now the head of department. Edgar, thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Urwin was mentioning there the meetings where I attended. I remember the first one in Paris, because I came from another thematic network. I was actually saying the important thing in these thematic networks, once I have been involved in, one is to go to the farms, to connect to people, to be on the fields and all that. And as he says, when I saw COVID, there is only one word, and sorry for the word, is fuck. That's the thing that when I saw it, fuck me. Not gonna work. But I think I have been following the videos and all that, and it was a very good work. And unfortunately, the COVID was there. Not only COVID was a bad thing for the contact with people, but it has kind of masked the importance of the issue with antimicrobial resistance. I would say very few people say, I think it's 19% of the people that die in the hospital of COVID actually die of secondary bacterial infection. So it's actually still there, killing people, a lot of people. So I think with climate change and antimicrobial resistance, both are kind of the important things that get relegated because of the urgent things like COVID or the war now. So it's unfortunately that's what happened. But so far, what I have seen has been very interesting. I'm in the community in Facebook, and I follow the videos and all that. So that was very much better than the one that we did for sure in EU peak. And I suppose today we will see more results and more output. So very happy to be here and to be able to. One thing that was very important is that as far as I see, that thing that we discussed in one of the online meetings, the collaboration between roadmaps, that has happened to some extent. So that's a very good, the continuation of that, that's a very good output. So that's happening there. So that's all.
Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Erwin. Now then, sorry. So now we are going to the second disarm video.
Illness affects everyone, and antibiotics are a precious resource for treating disease in humans and animals. But we must all use them carefully. Misuse can stop antibiotics from working, as bacteria develop antimicrobial resistance. The whole global community must work together to save our antibiotics. The Disarm project focused on animal health in agriculture, with a focus on the cattle, pig, poultry and sheep sectors. Disarm brought together farmers, veterinarians, researchers and others to share ideas, innovations and actions that help to protect animal health and reduce antibiotic use on farms. National and international cross-exchange activities were valuable learning opportunities.
Hey guys, we love the project and we love the trip to Belgium. It is always nice to see how other farms are working and to have some good ideas and samples. That was great. And also the Latvian poultry community, we had this meeting after a trip to Belgium, and it was also very productive and we make a lot of good efforts.
Disarm also produced many online resources including videos, reports and guides to provide practical insights and support learning. Although the Disarm project is coming to an end, the community networks it helped to develop over the last 3 years will continue supporting ongoing work in the EU and internationally to combat antimicrobial resistance.
But please welcome Elena, Laura, and Annick to present the results of the Disarm project. Okay, so first of all, Elena, she is going to present us the Disarm toolbox. She has also a PhD. She obtained her veterinary medicine degree from the Technical University of Lisbon, 2008. When I began, actually. You graduated when I began on the same studies. She later obtained an MSc, in epidemiology, master degree, I assume, master degree on epidemiology of infectious diseases at Utrecht University in 2012, and a PhD at University of Utrecht. Utrecht, UU. Okay, yeah. Sorry, it's after lunch. It's always a bad timing. In 2013 on epidemiology on African swine fever. Then Helena has worked as a researcher in the US, also in foot and mouth disease and African swine fever. She then pursued a career in research and development in the Netherlands, where she worked in animal health on pig immunology. She has been also a technical manager at IDT for swine flu vaccines. And recently, Elena was a postdoc researcher in the veterinary epidemiology group of Ghent University here in Belgium. So Elena, the floor is yours.
Thank you for that nice introduction. So I'm missing the first slide. Yeah. Okay, so I will talk to you a little bit in detail about the multi-active farm health teams and what we have achieved or tried to achieve here with the Disarm. Is there a pointer or how do I change the slides?
We have it. The thing is,
okay.
It works. Yes. Yes, it works. It's the one.
Okay. All right. This one. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. So for you today, I would like to go a little bit into to summarize what are these multi-actor approaches. And within these multi-actor approaches, we have the toolbox, which will be the one I will focus in the last part of this presentation. But I would like to also walk you through a little bit how the toolbox came to be in terms of the teams and the exchanges, and also the fact sheets that have supported, let's say, the creation of this toolbox. So the interactive innovation approach is something that I'm sure you're familiarized with. It involves this idea of not just having science being informing the stakeholders or the participants on the problem, but also having, let's say, the participants, the farmers in this case, becoming the people that are exchanging with the scientists. So we want to change from having just a top-down approach to having a bottom-up approach. And with that, we have tried to put in action the multi-actor farm health teams. And we've tried to also create a multi-actor network that would bridge the gap between the scientific research and adoption of the research itself. And within that, we have focused mostly on trying to get tools to expand the scientific knowledge and bring it to the farmers, and also to facilitate the use of the tools by the farmers. And so one of the things that my colleagues are going to show later on are the information sheets and other dissemination materials. But I would like to talk a little bit more about the materials that were for the multi-actor farm health teams. And we set off having 42 farm health teams in Europe. And the goal was that we would be having the inputs of the ZARM informing us in the creation of the farm health teams. And these farm health teams would be constituted by a coach, a farmer, a veterinarian, and a feed advisor. And then we would then produce different materials based on these farm health teams. Also interesting is that we had multiple countries, as you can see in the flags. So we had east, west, north, east, and south, and the different production systems that are present in Europe, but also different species. As you see, we have pigs, poultry, cattle, and sheep. So the course of actions that we took in the multi-actor farm health plans was that we would start with an intake in the farm, and then we would have meetings in which we would be doing diagnosis and an action plan. And later on, we would be implementing an action plan and following up the same action plan. Inspired by this Plan, Do, Check, Act, we realized that it might be interesting to produce as well some materials that the farmers could themselves become more independent and also act upon changing the problems that they face with at the farm. And this is how we went from the Plan, Do, Check, Act to the toolbox, which I will present later. We also decided that it might have been interesting to not just have the different countries working within, let's say, their own networks, but also to exchange between the networks. And since we had groups of countries that were working together, we managed to do some interesting exchanges between the UK, Romania, and Denmark, in which different production systems and different challenges were able to inform each other, and they were able to grow from this experience. For instance, in Denmark, we had organic dairy farmers, and in Romania, there weren't any organic dairy farmers, so they had the chance to learn how to approach production of milk in a different way. There were also exchanges between France and Greece. In this case, it was again interesting because the type of production is quite different in both countries, but still they could learn a lot from each other. And here you see some impressions in the field, and some of the people that on these pictures are also here sitting on this meeting. So it's interesting for sure to realize that this can work in practice. For the pig farmers, we also had some exchanges between the Netherlands and Spain. This is probably the sector that, well, because of its, let's say, intense work, might have some, well, the Netherlands is also a very big producer, and Spain is also a very big pig producer. And there's a lot to learn from both countries on the intensive farming, but also from other perspectives of specialty products like they have in Spain. And then poultry, this was the exchange between Latvia and Belgium, which are countries that have very different types of production systems, as you know, and also the farms that were being involved in the different countries were quite varied, and there was a possibility to learn a lot between the farmers of each country. We also produced fact sheets. These fact sheets are not necessarily the same materials as they're going to be shown later on with the guides and the practice guides. The fact sheets, they show how the experience of the ZARM was put into practice and how it has led to positive outcomes, or to just describing the process of generating this information. It's also something you can find on the fact sheets, which can be found on our website. Then I will just go very quickly into why do we think that we should be doing a farm health plan. So I think I've explained a little bit, but I think by now you understand that the grouping of people and the working together of these different people can bring much more knowledge to the front. And then on top of that, if you have a coherent and a streamlined plan, then the people are able to achieve a lot more. As a lot of you know, probably farmers might not have, let's say, the structure and the framework to work in an organized way. And by providing such a structure, we will be able to achieve more change than if there wasn't. And this is what we aim to create with the farm health plan. Finally, the farmer can find support in the other people in this team to make the change. And they will also have a feeling of shared ownership. These are the 5 steps of the farm health plan. So we start with the first step in which you create the plan. Let's say you create your team. So you gather all the specialists that you need to act upon your farm. And then we try to record the baseline data that is necessary to produce the changes. And then we will be determining which goals have to be achieved, implement those changes in step 4, and then finally evaluate the progress. Well, to make a team, we, as I said earlier, we'll have a farmer, the staff of the farm, eventually the vet, the supplier, in case that's interesting or important for this farm, and then the feed supplier. The idea then later on is that you'll be mapping the situation based on the standard animal health and performance indicators, biosecurity standards, what are the levels of antimicrobial use, and the farmer will also produce a self-assessment by ADCAR that will later on enable him or her to reflect upon what he has achieved so far and how far he got with his plan. So here you see some of the questions that are addressed in our toolbox. So the whole idea is that when the farmer or a support personnel is trying to help out the farmer in making the change, that we will be going through each one of these steps, and each one of these points. There are tools and tips on how to address this issue, how to collect animal health and performance indicators for each one of the farms in a structured way. And by following also the strict biosecurity questionnaires before and after, the farmer will also be able to determine how well he is doing in terms of biosecurity. And for antimicrobial use, we also provide a list of different resources that farmers can use to calculate and benchmark themselves in terms of antimicrobial use. That is, of course, as you know, very different from country to country. So this is not something that we provide, let's say, one standard, but we give access to many different tools that could be used online to determine this. And then finally, the farm self-assessment, which will also have questionnaires that could be downloaded in our website. Then we have the action plan itself. For this, we hope to explain that we start with creating methods to brainstorm so that the farmers might not be used or able, let's say in the beginning even, to think about their problems in a different way. And these brainstorming tools will facilitate that. And then also we have in our website ways of establishing that will facilitate in establishing realistic marks for these points. And then eventually we'll have the actions themselves that have to be implemented. So now here we have again one of the materials we are providing to implement and track the changes, because we believe that it's much easier to implement change and to evaluate if there is change if we can log the process. And again, farmers might not be quite comfortable doing this, but if we provide the framework and the structure, we think that it will be of help for them. And finally, then the last step is to evaluate the progress of the farm health team itself. So in this case, you will have, again, a template that can be downloaded. And then here you can set down which are the goals, which action, who did it, and when is it due. And by adjusting it and making it smart, then we feel that there will be much more clear progress from the farmer, and this will reinforce the change that he's trying to achieve. So it's not working anymore. Okay. Now it was working too far. Okay, now I pass the word to Laura.
Right, thank you, Helena. So yes, now what we've produced through the Disarm project.
Should I introduce you first?
Oh yes.
Just to keep the good path within the speakers. So Laura, here present, it's our, let's say, communication officer in the project. She has been dealing with the biggest part, let's say, of the, of social media communication and working package 5 activities. But as a background, Dr. Laura Polsinski, works for Innovation for Agriculture in the UK, a knowledge exchange organization which specializes in bridging the gap between science and agricultural practice, particularly what Disarm wants to do, so perfect. She's passionate about farmer-led research and two-way communication in applied research to ensure study designs and outputs are relevant and useful to farmers and other industry actors. This has served her well in her role as one of the core team leading the communication and dissemination efforts in the project. Laura, whenever you want.
Yes, so as we've already kind of covered with Erwin and what we're discussing, Disarm was a networking project which was going on through COVID. But we still managed to bring various different actors together, from researchers, vets, farmers, to work together. And the aim was to share cost-effective and beneficial strategies which ultimately could improve animal health, reduce antibiotic treatments, and then that can contribute to a reduction in the development of antimicrobial resistance. So to do this, we have produced a website, and we've also been, as Paula mentioned, we've got our social media channels. So we have a LinkedIn page, a Facebook page, a Twitter page, and we also have a YouTube channel, which I'll discuss a bit later. So on our website, there are many resources which can be found under the resources tab on our website, and that's possible to search by keywords, or you can select from the drop-down menus. You can select the topics of cattle, pigs, poultry or sheep for the species that you're interested in, or there's a selection of different topics, so around disease prevention, housing management and welfare, feed and gut health, precision livestock farming, and responsible antibiotic use, as well as the farm health team toolbox, which Helena was just talking to us about. And if you go on to any of these resource pages on the website, you would see the video itself with some summary text based on the practice abstracts that we've produced, or those videos are all available on our YouTube channel as well, which will be available as long as YouTube is, hopefully. Then we've also produced some best practice guides, which summarize all of the materials that we've collected over the course of the project into one place, so they can link to external information, our own information, and those are on the same sort of 10 topics that we focused on, so around biosecurity, housing, water quality, vaccination, precision livestock technologies again, young stock management and early rearing, breeding and genetics, trying to get robust and resilient animals through breeding, and also adapted feeding, watering, and additives, which can also contribute to animal health. We've also got on the website our state-of-the-art database, so different entries that we've collected through a review of materials from research, industry and farms themselves. There's over 500 entries on the website which link to the original material, and give a brief summary as well, so that you can search for those. And there's also a report that summarizes all of those entries, so you can find the key highlights in that report. So there's also other reports based on research prioritization reports. So the first two were based on surveys, which look at how how industry players perceive different elements of this challenge of animal health and antibiotic use in farming. And also then the final research prioritization report was focused on the multi-actor farm health team approach and how it could be implemented in different countries and in different ways. And those also have helped to inform some policy recommendations, which we will discuss a bit more later on today and tomorrow as well. So this is just a nice summary of what you can find on the website. As I said, the videos, check that I didn't miss anything. Yes, we've also got the community of practice, which is hosted on Facebook. And so to make it accessible for anyone who doesn't want to access it via Facebook, we've also got some summaries of what's been discussed on that page. And there's also been, based on COVID, a lot of our events and workshops that we had initially planned to be face-to-face physical events were webinars. So those were recorded and are also available on the website and on the YouTube channel. So now I will hand over to Annick and Paula to introduce her.
Thank you very much, Laura. So now we go to the third speaker before the coffee break, who is Annick Spans. Annick works for ZLTO, Farmers Association in the Netherlands. Her field of expertise is animal health, and she is also involved in the Horizon 2020 EU projects Roadmap and Netpool Safe. And it gets enthusiastic about communicating innovative findings to the agricultural field, which fits greatly to her role as being part of the Disarm Communication and Dissemination Leading Team. Annick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula. I will tell you something more about the legacy and the sustainability we have of Disarm, because as you heard of my colleagues, Helena and Laura, we have made a lot of materials, but now as the project will end in a month, it is important to think about some additional activities and materials in order to sustain the project outputs. So I will tell you more about these activities and materials we have made. We have made a resources decision tree, which will be online soon on the website. We have contributed to the Eureka Farm Book. We have made several e-learning modules. And we are currently working on a scientific publication and a policy brief. And last but not least, we are another project will take over the social media channels of Disarm, as well as the community of practice. So for the resources decision tree, you can see here the figures we have made, which is actually a research guide. And if you are a policy advisor or a farmer or a veterinarian or another stakeholder, we all have thought about it to guide you through the process to find properly the resources you are looking for. So for example, a teacher is willing to find other materials such as an e-learning module or a best practice guide, while a farmer is, for example, more interested in looking for videos. So that's why we made this guide. And once it is published on the website, you can find easily the outputs you are looking for. Then another activity we did is we find a collaboration with the Eureka Farm Eureka Farm Book. So at the moment it is still a pilot version, but it will be a collection of interesting materials for farmers and veterinarians to store all the project's outputs on European level. And from Disarm, we send the videos, the abstracts, the best practice guides, and the toolbox, as this is all of interest for the farmers. So this will be published on the pilot version soon, and the Eureka Farm Book will be, the final version will be online soon as well.
So then we made some e-learning modules. We made 5 of them. One is about the multi-actor farm health plans. The other one is about prudent use of antibiotics, about biosecurity, and the 4th one is about breeding and rearing, and the last one about water and feed. These early e-learning modules are a collection of all the materials we have made. So it's mainly about the best practice guides, but also about the videos, the abstracts, and the resources out of the state of the art, which will be interesting for universities and high schools, as well as for farmers, veterinarians, and so on. Over here, you see a couple of examples. It's quite small, I think, but it is a PowerPoint presentation with a collection of videos and interesting materials about the topics mentioned, including also some questions and quizzes. So then at the moment, we are busy with a scientific publication about the multi-actor farm health plan, and in which we will describe our successes and experiences with this approach, which will be published or submitted at least in Frontiers in the veterinary medicine. Over here, we will describe how this multi-actor farm health plan has been implemented, and we will demonstrate how this type of activities how important it is on the perception of farmers towards antimicrobial reduction. One of the findings is that the farmers recognize the importance of this multi-actor farm health team approach in identifying the critical animal health problems and alternatives or improved procedures that could be employed when aiming to reduce antimicrobial use on their farms. And what is also included in this paper is the Disarm Toolbox. We will share the experiences with this in this paper, as well as the coaching strategy implemented by Disarm. Then Disarm is also preparing the policy brief, in which we will describe the most important conclusions collected in the project. And this brief reflects the work done so far, and also what is included in our network exploitation and sustainability plan. So in this policy brief, we will mainly focus on support change on farm level, facilitate the expansion of the multi-actor farm health team approach, and to achieve the One Health approach in practice. And then you can think about facilitating cross-fertilization internationally and across different sectors, alongside monitoring and transparency with care. Then last but not least, the community of practice and the social media takeover. We are in contact with Project Roadmap, and they will take over our social media. So for the Facebook project page, the LinkedIn and the Twitter page, all the visitors will be redirected to the pages of Roadmap. And for the community of practice, which has at the moment around 600 members, it will be taken over by Roadmap. But now the challenge is to change the name, as the name is now Disarm Community of Practice. We would like to have more a general name of it. So therefore, I would like to ask you to complete the poll we have made at the Community of Practice. I have included a QR code over there, but I don't know if it is visible for you on the wall. But if you have Facebook, I would like to ask you to go to the Disarm Community of Practice Facebook group, and you can vote on the title you would like to you would prefer. That's it, actually. So then it's time for a coffee break.
Okay, everyone ready? Ready, steady, go. Let's re-begin. So please, we are going to put now the first testimonial video from the project Disarm. Let's say now we are going to put a testimonial. It's not the project video as such, it's a testimonial from people from the project. It's not the general project video as you saw at the beginning. So we are going to put 4 testimonials during this afternoon. One, let's say, before and after each panel or intervention. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Ja, ik ben dus 5 jaar geleden begonnen met pluimvee en ik wou graag nog zeker nog wat dingen bijleren. En toen hoorde ik over dit project en ik heb er over nagedacht. En dat lijkt me toch wel zeer interessant om deel te nemen, om zo eens te zien hoe dat andere mensen werken en hoe dat mezelf kan verbeteren. De grootste problemen waren vooral de coccidiose, die steeds terugkwam eigenlijk. Ja. Dus we hebben samen gekeken met de veeartsen hoe we dit het best kunnen oplossen. En door verschillende manieren te proberen, is het uiteindelijk toch voorlopig gelukt om de coccidiose toch weg te krijgen. Als ook enterokokken, die ook wel regelmatig problemen gaven, die zijn nu ook voorlopig verdwenen. Dus op dat vlak is het wel een positieve ervaring. De grootste uitdagingen hier in België zijn eigenlijk om te kunnen blijven bestaan. Dat de huidige wetten en regels maken het zeer moeilijk om bedrijven te kunnen uitbreiden. Op dat vlak is het wel niet gemakkelijk. Ik zou zeggen, voor het beginnende boeren laat je vooral goed adviseren, laat je bijstaan door iedereen om zoveel mogelijk informatie te kunnen te weten te komen. Volgens mij is ook al de praktische ervaring is ook nog de beste ervaring. Aldoende leert men. Dus niet enkel theorie, maar vooral de praktijk is belangrijk.
Thank you very much. And now we should go to the point of our keynote speaker from the Commission, but I don't see him in the room and I don't see him in Zoom. So that's, yeah, so I think it's life issues. So if you agree, I mean, no, I don't see him and he's not connected. And unfortunately, he's not answering my emails. So yeah, so it's three things at the same time. So if you agree, what I would suggest is that we go for the next presentation for the Armor Partnership. And as soon as we have our keynote speaker with us, we jump to him and then we go for the panel. If you agree, we can do that. So then I will call on stage Laura Polczynski to present Armor Partnership, Nicolas Fortanet to present Roadmap from INRAE, Jean Warten to present Healthy Livestock, and Philoclis, no, I think Philoclis Piledis is not here. I think the presentation of Avant will be online, right? No, a video. So please. Yeah. Yes. Move forward and then if needed we go back. So no, it's no, next no, that's the armor, yes. So back back to the armor one, that one. And I think you all know Laura already, so I won't introduce her again. Laura, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Paula. So the ARMOR is a partnership of 5 projects who are working in the area of livestock health in agriculture, and we are collaborating together to help support each other's dissemination efforts, to really help promote our results and expand our networks to help reduce antimicrobial use on farms, which will ultimately contribute to the fight against antimicrobial resistance. Next slide. I don't know. Thank you. So this project group was formed with the support from the Horizon Results Booster service. So these graphics were produced by that team. So I quite like them, with the armor being the helmet and some nice graphics there. And they also produced for us this short video. I thought the slides were the other way around, but never mind. So yes, so
you can ask Robic, I think.
that's right. So we are a group of 5 projects. So Amarils, Avant, Disarm, obviously, Healthy Livestock, and Roadmap, and we're all working together. So yes, they are. And as I said, the Horizon Results Booster team are really helpful, and they have produced us this video as well. Great, yes. So on behalf of the Disarm Consortium, we're really excited to be working with these other projects. So I will hand over to Paula to introduce the next speaker.
Yeah, is it off? Sorry.
Because in this table, at least 2 microphones at the same time, they don't work well. So thank you very much, Laura. I will introduce now Nicolas. It's French, Nicolas. Nicolas Fourtanet is a researcher in sociology at the French Research Institute of Food, Agriculture and Environment, INRAE, as we all know it. His work focuses on animal health by analyzing how public policies, markets, professions, and scientific knowledge shape the way our societies deal with the risk associated to animal diseases. He's mostly been working over the past years on the issue of antimicrobial resistance. He's leading the AMAGRI research group based in Paris, Dauphine University, and coordinates the Horizon 2020 Roadmap European project, the organizers of the nice lunch we had before, on transition towards prudent use of antimicrobials in livestock. So, Nicolas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, no, the other way around. So, yeah, very quickly, I wanted to remind you, the objectives of the Roadmap project and the way it is organized. So, basically, as you know, it's a social science-driven but multi-actor and multidisciplinary project that is aiming at fostering transitions toward prudent use of antimicrobial use, as we all do in this room. And as you may know as well, so we are using different types of methods inspired by different social sciences and economic disciplines. So first pillar aiming at understanding the drivers of antimicrobial use in various contexts, in particular focusing on the behaviors of the stakeholder, the influence of the regulatory system, the structure of the food supply chain, and of course, knowledge, practices, and motivations of animal health professionals. We have another pillar, which is more focusing and based on participatory approaches where we're trying to co-develop strategies to encourage this prudent AMU. And of course, our last pillars are aiming at the assessment of our strategies and also developing the impact of what we do. Many countries involved, several production sectors and production system are being studied within this project. But you can find all this information on the leaflets here on our websites. I wanted to use the few minutes I have here to highlight a couple of preliminary results that we have, because I mean it's an ongoing project, but to give you more concrete examples of what we do. So for one of the things that we have done, and you have the deliverable in our website, that was an action led by Massimo Canali at Unibo. Basically, we performed a socioeconomic evaluation of several national action plans aiming at reducing antimicrobial use in various European countries, using basically an assessment system provided and developed by FAO recently. And we came to the result that I suppose it's a bit difficult to read here, but you could see that in the countries involved in the roadmap project, I mean, most of the indicators are performing well, but there are some efforts that could be maintained on the development of awareness in the various countries involved in the roadmap, and also the governmental structure, basically, of the policies aiming at reducing antimicrobial use. If I go also a bit further, I mean, that's an example taken from French fieldwork led by Christine Roguet and Anne-Monique from the PIG Technical Institute, and it was aimed at understanding the impact, basically, of the antibiotic-free labels in this sector. That was quite interesting to see. You could see here on the graph the development year by year of all the bills of specifications, basically by French companies, either integrators, sometimes retailers, sometimes producers, organizations that have started gradually to develop those labels. And it was very interesting to see how they have accompanied basically farmers towards those transitions to prudent use of antibiotics. But also, if we were to look at them with a more critical point of view, we also realized that they didn't changed profoundly and the socioeconomic structure of the food supply chain, and that we must also that also raises question on the way we can go further, what those antibiotic-free labels have brought so far. Publications to come, because that we wouldn't find on our website yet. Also interestingly, the living labs that we are basically developing are trying to basically record and gather the vision of the farmers, but also animal health professionals. So everything that have been studied by classical methodologies could also be highlighted through the participatory methods that we use in our living labs. And here I wanted to highlight a couple of things that have been observed in two living labs. And here I would like to thank Fanny Baudouin from Milvaux from also having performing this graph. So basically how the economic issue, but also the barriers for change and the aspect of limited knowledge that the farmer could experience sometimes, how all of this acts as a limitation of the change that they are basically asked upon. That's very interesting, and how we could base those information to, as I was saying just earlier, go further in the development of some norms and guidelines that could foster and encourage practice change. And just to finish, also in this project, we did a lot of research as well on the role of veterinarians and the changing role of veterinarians on all these trends, aiming at reducing antimicrobial use. And we observed in many countries the rise of what we've called preventive veterinary medicine, or at least preventive approaches to animal health. And it was very interesting to see how the development of those new approaches and services that we observed in many countries basically moved the role of vets from pure clinicians toward health coordinator, basically focusing on much more than clinics, but also technical aspects of animal health and farm management. But that this tendency, this dynamic towards preventive veterinary medicine has also some barriers, especially the issue of being able to value on the animal healthcare market all those new services and approaches to veterinarians' clients, which is certainly the future's challenge of the veterinary profession. So I'll stop here because I only have a few minutes, but you could see already some of these results published on our website, and some are going to come in the next months. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Then we go for our next speaker, Jean Wachten. Jean Wachten, it's a former Director General of FVE, Federation of Veterinarians here in Brussels. After graduation from Veterinary Faculty of University of Utrecht, the Netherlands, Jean started his veterinary career in a mixed practice, what we most did. As a vet, I can relate to that. He then joined the pharmaceutical industry where he worked on the development of vaccines. Later, he worked as policy officer for the Dutch Ministry of Agriculture and for the Royal Netherlands Veterinary Association. From 2003 until 2021, Jean Wachten was, as I mentioned, executive director of the Federation of Veterinarians in Europe, federation of 49 veterinary professional organizations in 41 European countries, representing European veterinary profession. After his retirement in 2021, he remained involved in the FVE as senior project officer. From 2010 until 2020, Jean Wachten was executive secretary of the World Veterinary Association, the internationally recognized global voice for veterinary medicine, working with partners around the world, including OIE, WHO, and FAO. So Jean, the floor is yours. And he will be our moderator for the panel, for your information.
Thank you very much, Paula, for your kind introduction. As Paula said, I'm coming from the FVE, the Federation of Veterinarians of Europe. I'm here together with Yael Dotan. She's there in the other corner of the room. We work together on different EU projects where FVE is involved in. Before I go on with the presentation of the Healthy Livestock Project, I would like to congratulate Erwin and in fact the whole Disarm consortium with what has been achieved over the past years. I think it's impressive to see, despite all the difficulties you had, and we also faced with COVID, that you have developed a lot of interesting tools and technical things that are very useful for farmers and veterinarians to reduce the use of antimicrobials. And I think you have also been very inspiring for other projects, and it's interesting to work together in this ARMOR group. And then let me go on the Healthy Livestock Project. Let's see. I go the other way. Sorry. Oh, yeah. So the Healthy Livestock Project, tackling antimicrobial resistance through the improved livestock health and welfare. So what we want to do in Healthy Livestock is to see what enhanced animal health and animal welfare do on reducing the need to use antimicrobials. So by giving the animals better health and welfare, we think you have less need to use antimicrobials, and that in the end will help to reduce antimicrobial resistance. The Healthy Livestock Project is composed of two parts. There's a European part that is funded by the EU, and there's a Chinese part that is funded by the Ministry of Agriculture of the People's Republic of China. And we work together from two sides towards the same goals. And as you will understand also in our project, given the situation with COVID in the last years, most of the collaboration we did was online. We couldn't meet in person. This is an overview of the project partners, but I will not go into detail here, but on the left side, you see the European partners, and on the right side, the Chinese partners. Healthy Livestock is looking at 4 different strategies to reduce the need to use antimicrobials. The first one is biosecurity. So a stronger roof above the animals or a house around the animals. better resilience, stronger animals that can better cope with possible infections. Early detection, so if they would pick up something, that we will be able to see it earlier and to start to target these infections earlier. And then if we have to treat them, that we can do that in a more precise way. So the last item here, the last strategy is precision medication. In the biosecurity strategy, we looked mainly at the development and application of farm-specific tailor-made biosecurity protocols. So we looked at the farms, we looked at different zones in the farms, and we looked at the bottlenecks in relation to biosecurity and how can we improve the biosecurity on the farms, and how can we see that the risk for getting infections on the farm or spreading infections from the farm can be reduced. The second strategy, resilience, is about the use of animal welfare friendly systems. So how can we keep the animals in a better animal welfare friendly system so that they will be stronger and better able to cope with possible infections they may encounter on the farm. We also do that by the improvement of gut health, and for that we look at the working of probiotics with or without in combination of traditional Chinese medicines. Of course, that's a part of the project that's brought in by our Chinese consortium members. The fourth strategy, early detection. There we look at what automated behavior systems to look at the behavior of animals in an automated system, what that can do for making it earlier visible that something is not going as it should be. So specific monitoring of these animals and the weight of these animals and how they move and how they eat, etc. So early detection so that you don't have to wait until many animals are sick before you become aware that something is wrong, but in a much earlier stage, you can take the necessary measures. And the last strategy is the precision medication. So how can we best medicate animals, very targeted to the animals that need it, so that you don't use more antimicrobials than really necessary. Here you see it in a scheme. So on the left side, you see the 4 work packages: biosecurity, resilience, rapid detection or early detection, and precision medication. So from the biosecurity, we have the health and welfare plans, and we have the results from the other research packages. That goes to the next step for the validation. There we look, for example, at the economics of the results we have found, or the acceptability by the farmers or the general public. So are the technical results we have found really practical to be used at the farm? And then we select those results that are the most promising for dissemination. And that's in the last work package. The Healthy Livestock Project is for 4 years. It should end in September this year, but we have half a year extra because of the COVID situation. So we are now coming towards the last part where we speak about dissemination. One of the things we are doing in dissemination, I take this opportunity to make you aware, we are also organizing a day where science meets practice. That will take place in Bologna on the 23rd of June. You can also join it online. So it's nice if you can come to Bologna, but if you want to follow the presentations of the work package leaders and the consortium members, etc., you're very welcome to register via the website, and we will be happy to see you online or in the meeting. So far, a short, a very brief introduction of the Healthy Livestock Project. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Jan. Okay, so I think we finished this block. No, we are missing the video from Avant, but I think it's already, should be already in the presentation. Yes, so that one, is there any play button? Ah, yes, okay. So I will maybe this is the only bio I didn't receive. But I think, Jan, do you know the speaker? This guy.
That's Luca.
Luca,
Yeah.
can you briefly introduce him, please? So in preparation of the panel, so you will warm up for the panel, because I must admit I didn't receive anything on this guy. I don't know who he is. Apologies for that. Your microphone.
That is Luca Guardabassi. He's a professor in the university in Copenhagen. He looks, of course, he's a bacteriologist, and with his research team, he's also very much involved in looking at how to reduce the use of antimicrobials. And in the project that will be explained later, Luca will explain how it is done, the alternatives. I don't much details about Luca further on, so I have to leave it here, I'm afraid.
Hi, my name is Luca Guardavassi, and I'm professor in One Health Antimicrobial Resistance at the University of Copenhagen. I'm here to introduce the EU Innovation Action Avant, which is a project supported by Horizon 2020. The Avant Consortium is composed of 14 partners, including 5 universities, 8 enterprises, and 1 large European veterinary association. This is a so-called multi-actor project that brings together experts from academia, industry, and veterinary practice to work together towards a common goal. The goal is to develop and test innovative alternatives to antibiotics to reduce the overall consumption of antibiotics in livestock production. We decided to focus on pigs because this is the animal species where most antimicrobials are used, in Europe at least. And we specifically develop and test alternatives for control and treatment of post-weaning diarrhea, because this is one of the main indications for antibiotic prescription and use in pig production. It's a very common disease that affects piglets at the age of 3-4 weeks when they're separated from their sows. And it's very difficult to treat because of the restrictions in the use of zinc oxide and colistin, which were traditionally the first choices for treatment of this bacterial infection. The Avant portfolio includes 4 types of alternatives to antibiotics. The microbial gut modulators, which are like good bacteria that antagonize the pathogenic bacteria in the intestinal tract of the pig and also contribute to improve the host immunity. The second type are medicines that are specifically targeting the main pathogen responsible for post-weaning diarrhea in piglets, enterotoxigenic Escherichia coli, using phage or polymers that are specifically killing this organism. The third type are immunostimulants, which are substances that activate the immune response of the pig and against all pathogens, so they confer a general protection against all bacterial diseases. And finally, our portfolio also includes different types of nutrition strategies targeting either the sow or the piglets to produce healthier piglets that are less predisposed to post-weaning diarrhea. The different products that we are studying are at different stages in the development process. So some of them are already formulated, whereas others are at earlier stages of testing and production. We expect that the most advanced ones will be translated into farm practices within 1-2 years after the end of the project. And this will have a great impact on livestock production. In particular, farmers and veterinarians will be able to produce healthy animals with minimal use of antibiotics and without impacting their profit. And the consumers and the society as a whole will also benefit from the outcomes of this project, because a reduced use of antibiotics is likely to result also in a reduced risk of transmission of AMR from livestock to humans. In the meantime, thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to meeting you face to face in the near future. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very good presentation. And to close this block, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to show you another testimonial video from our partners. And then we will see if we finally got our keynote speaker. I don't see him in the room, but let me check. He doesn't seem to be online either. So, okay, let's go for the testimonial and then we move forward.
I think looking at antibiotic use and what we've done and what we could do in the future, I think when we look back to what we were doing with antibiotic use, we were throwing antibiotics at everything. Every cow that we were drying off got a full antibiotic treatment. Anything with the slightest hint of an illness got something like a Naxel or an XNL. If it had a fowl in the foot, it would get XNL rather than a pen strep. So actually the products we were using would, you could say that we might have been using less antibiotic, but we're using ones that were critically important in the food chain. So actually we've gone back to some of the old-fashioned antibiotics, which still work. So, you know, why should we go away from some of those? If you're measuring antibiotic use in weight of antibiotic, we could be using more, which is always the challenge when you come to statistics. But it's important to say that actually what we're using are ones that have been around for centuries and have been proven to be safe and not be a food chain issue. Some of these newer ones, there are question marks over that. So we've become much more conscious of what we use. We've also, there's less available than there were, of course. There's less products that make it onto market than were. We also don't know what's on the market anymore because it's all done through the vets. So we're much more reliable on the vets to tell us what products we can and can't use. Whereas before, it was in all the press. There were adverts everywhere. There aren't anymore. So our knowledge in some ways become more limited on what we can use ourselves. We have to find out from the professionals. So we have to have a trust in the professionals to be able to be on the same journey as us with that, to make sure we're not using these products. And that's important too.
Okay, that was our third testimonial video. And then seeing that, yeah, Mr. Kavit is not showing up for the moment, I think we are going directly to the panel discussion. With so Jan, I need you to stay with me here on stage. And then I will call on Miguel Ángel Higuera from Amprogapor, Ana Granados from EFAB and Roadmap, Edgar Garcia Manzanilla from Chagas, and missing Jean-Charles Kavit. Yeah. Suddenly he pops up from somewhere and says, no, I'm here. Okay. So, yeah, mismamente. Yeah, perfect. And so I will give directly the floor to Jan because he will be moderating the session. So I think, excepting Anna and Miguel, yeah, Edgar was introduced. So I leave it in your hands. Good luck, and let's have a live discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula. Thank you very much. Very welcome to the panelists. I look forward to a very interesting and hopefully stimulating discussion with you and with the audience here in the room. As Paula already said, there are two people on the table here that are not yet introduced. That's Anna and Miguel. I will say a few words about them. So Anna is educated at the Polytechnic University of Madrid as an agronomist in animal science with a special focus on animal reproduction and genetics. She has a broad experience in animal breeding, farming and sustainable food production and related policies. And she has been represented European Farm Animals Breeders, EFAP, since 2018. Besides being the director of EFAP, Anna is also the Secretary General of FABRE technology platform, the Farm Animal Breeding and Reproduction Technology Platform, which plays an important role in animal genetics and reproduction research and innovation. He's also the Vice President of the Animal Task Force, which is a private-public partnership that is promoting EU research in livestock. So Anna, we are very happy to have you here. The other person to introduce is Miguel, Director of difficult AMPROGAPPER, I hope I pronounce it correctly, the National Association of Pig Producers. He's a veterinarian and specialist in pig production and breeding, and a current director of this AMPROGAPPER. He's an expert in several working groups of the European Commission. And it's also important to mention here in this house that he is the president of the Animal Health and Welfare Working Party of Copa Cogeca. Welcome also. And Edgar, you were already introduced, so I will not.
We think let's allow them maybe to make a very short statement about what they think of before the panel. So
okay. Okay, so I take over this very good suggestion from Paula. And I would like to start with Anna with a very general question about what your first thoughts are about using antimicrobials and the project.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have just.
I have to switch it off?
Yeah, I think you have to switch off yours. Yes. So hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the invitation and for coming. Paula asked me yeah, sorry,
I think
to talk about
2 months. All of you, so I'm the one to blame. Sorry.
To give the breeding perspective on antimicrobial resistance and the use of antibiotics in animal farming. So I had 2 slides for you that perhaps are very useful before. I mean, because you asked us for 3 minutes speech. So I don't know if Rodica has the.
Yeah, no, Rodica is on it.
She's on it. I'm sorry. It was just to say, so hello, I'm Magna Granados, and just to introduce what our animal breeding programs looks like in the 21st century. So the only slide that I have is just to show those in the 70s and in the 80s, breeding programs were focusing in production. The objective goals were related to the production. And since already 25 years, an animal breeding program is a combination of many breeding goals, including animal health and welfare. So making more robust animals, also resistant to a specific disease or resistant to a disease in general. And that's what I wanted to show you to make it more easy to and give you some examples on cattle breeding. But
it's coming.
I can give the floor to my colleagues here in the table.
We are really ahead of schedule.
No, yeah, that's true, but I don't want to take the floor more than.
Don't worry.
So just to respond to your question, perhaps, Jan, that first it's very nice to see you. Because you left FVE during COVID, so we perform a farewell reception online with our drinks and so on, but it was very sad. I mean, for you, I suppose it was sad. So happy to see you today.
Thank you.
And so yes, for animal breeders, of course, antimicrobial resistance is very important thing to tackle. And that's what I wanted to show you, that how they think that they can contribute to reduce the use of antibiotics. But it doesn't matter, Paula, if you don't find it. And I had, And I had just an example on these slides is that it was the cattle breeding sector and a very specific example coming from the Nordic countries that everybody knows that were the first one tackling antimicrobial resistance. And this is an approach that was handled by veterinarians and breeding associations and many other professionals in the field, including farmers, that all together when putting efforts to collect inputs, collect data from the field on diseases, on mastitis incidents, and veterinarian treatments. With this, they could handle to include it as a breeding goal. So they have reduced in 10 years the incidence of mastitis in the farms, and that is one of the main factors was breeding. Of course, management is coming also after, and I'm not saying that breeding is more important than other measures at the farm level, but can be a first step to reduce the use of antibiotics. And that is what I wanted to show you, one example, that one successful example, and other ones are ongoing, of course, in other species.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, for this introduction and your passion about the work you are doing. I think indeed breeding has changed a lot in the last decades, or a few decades ago. It was very much focused on production efficiency. How can we produce more and how can we produce faster? But we have learned that there is more than efficiency, and things like robustness of animals is always also a very important factor in the breeding programs. Thank you. So then I would like to go on to Miguel for the first question. I think you have had some extra time to prepare, so I look forward to a very stimulating answer from you.
No, he's fairly very happy to be here and good afternoon to everyone. I'm also be part of the member of this arm, and also I be part of Copa Cogeca. So for us as the farmers, and I would like to speak in behalf of the pig producers because it's also the farmers that I know, how much is important also to tackle the problem of the resistance and also the use of antibiotics, because at the end, for us, there are different points of view. One of the importance of that we have also to face the reduction of antibiotics is directly for the internal work in the farm. So for the farmers, one of the things is try to take care of the animals. So if the animals are sick, the farmers are not happy at all. So for the first is that we need to work also to improve our animal health, and the reduce of use of antibiotics has to be a consequence because we are going to increase the health status in our farm. So why? Because of course, when we are producing our farm, we want to have healthy animals, because if not, we are going to have a reduction in the production, and this is not going to put with efficiency, the economic efficiency in the farm. So this is maybe the internal reason, but also when we are talking about the antibiotics and also we are talking about the farms, we have the social aspect, that is how we are linked with our society and how we consumer are also considered as at food producers, because at the end, this is our responsibility to show to the consumer what the things that we are doing in the farms, that the farms are working well, that we are take care of the animals, that we are trying to reduce the use of antibiotics, because at the end, we are in the chains and we have to work together in the reduction of the risk of an antimicrobial resistance. So the work that the farmers have to work also is to show to the society that they are working in the way to try also to improve the animal health, reduce the use of antibiotics, and also reduce the risk of antimicrobial resistance. This is my first statement.
Thank you very much. And I couldn't agree more. I think stockmanship and knowledge and commitment of farmers is very important to have good animal health and welfare on the farm, and by that to reduce the need to use antimicrobials, and then by doing that also to come closer to the wishes of the consumers. Thank you very much. And then Edgar, the turn is to you. The microphone is to you.
Perfect. Well, I mostly work with farmers. I do my research in the field, and try to help farmers to develop, let's say, the strategies in their own commercial farms to reduce the use of antimicrobials. For me, I was asked to comment on how the farmers approach this, or how collaborative they are. I think that there is a couple of groups of farmers, and 2 or 3 or whatever. And there's always the very progressive farmers, and then there are those farmers that are going to say, well, look, whenever they force me, I will do it. That's it. So you will have all these different opinions in the farmers. But I think we are, at least for most of the people that are working in this sector, meaning research, we are a little bit, not probably this project, but in general, underestimating the farmers in terms of as a source of knowledge, and especially the commission and the governments. I think they are taking a wrong approach, in the sense that the farmers are feeling a lot that is pressure on them, and the government is not playing well the empowerment of the farmer as the one making the change. And that's, at least in the 2 countries that I work the most, is Spain and Ireland. And that's a pity, because they do have the will to do it. They do have the capacity to bring things to the table. And personally, I think it's a more rewarding thing when you actually see that the farmers are doing that and not complying with just legislation, and that's it. So I'm not a social scientist at all, but I'm learning with the social scientists that I'm working, and it does work, and it's very interesting. And one thing, probably the final thing that I will say when I'm doing this research that actually works is it actually works once you have that farmer and you become part of the farm as a researcher or as a veterinarian or whatever, is when it works, is when the change happens. So you cannot just go and tell, look, this is the guideline, follow it. You have to be part of the change, and the farmer has to be part of the change, and everybody has to be part of the change.
Thank you very much for your statement. That makes it more a pity that Jean-Jacques Avit can't be here, because if you say, well, the Commission should take another look at farmers and how they do their best to make things better, he could also has taken home this message, but maybe Paula can make sure that this message will anyway reach him. I also think that what you mentioned, social sciences, is very important in what's going on, how we communicate with each other. I think we often focus a lot on technical solutions and on hardware, let's say, to what can we do to reduce the use of antimicrobials. But it's not always a matter of technical solutions of knowledge, but it's always also a matter of motivation, and how can people be motivated to make really a change in the right direction. Thank you. Going further on that last point, you already mentioned another more general question I have, and I would like now to start with you, Miguel, is how do you think we can really stimulate farmers to reduce the use of antibiotics on their farm? So what do you think are the best working mechanisms to stimulate farmers? And it's so, as we already heard, it's not by putting more pressure, but let's say inviting them to go forward.
I think also the way to motivate to the farmers is also to be realistic in the plan, and also to draft a plan to have an objective, a clear objective for the farmers. The farmers need to be clear, because at the end, the farmers have the money in the farm, so they have to be clear with the action that we are going to take it. So we have to be with them in the way to try to reduce the use of antibiotics. The farmers have to be the real vision. What is the things that we are going to do in the farms, and also how to can motivate it, because at the end we are going to give them several advantages when we are talking about the reduction of use of antibiotics. The first, of course, for the farmers, I think is something important, is the economic impact. So you reduce the pressure of the disease and you need less antibiotics, the economic result of your farm is going to be better. But also have to be done with a very restrictive plan, because at the end, how to reduce the use of antibiotics, and we have seen this in this project in the disarm, is a multi-after factors plan. So we have to be sure that we are control the biosecurity, the management, the facilities, the new replacement of the animals. All these things have to be with the objective that at the end for the farmers is going to be a results. The results has to be firstly, economic, and then for the imaging of the farm. So because at the end, right now in most of our countries, we are control and we have system to the control of them, of the surveillance of the consumption of antibiotics. And now we are going to start to have a lot of benchmarking between different farmers to know what is the situation that you have together with another farmers in the consumption of the antibiotics. And no one want to be in this photo in not a very good position. All the people would like to have a very good position when we are talking about the consumption of antibiotics. So at the other time, there are another factor that is also the imagine that the farmers project to the society and to the other farmers that they are working in the good level that they can. So at the end is something another time that has to be with a very clear objective that also can be done for the farmers, because if it's something that is not possible to reach, the farmers can be frustrated at all. So we can be clear for this reason, they have need the veterinarian, the advisors, and also a very good health plans to do that. And at the other side is for the imagine that also the farmers and our meat, our products are projecting for the society.
So what in fact I hear you saying is that what you would like to see is that the good working farmers, they would appreciate further recognition and appreciation for all the efforts they make to make the best products coming to the market. Can I then ask the same question to Anna about how can we stimulate farmers to reduce the use of antimicrobials or antibiotics on their farms?
Wow, very large question. I agree with Edgar on that farmers are part of not the solution, because it's a very large statement, broad statement again. But I think that sometimes we have to go back and understand why we're using some of the antibiotics at the farm level to know how these changes can be done, and the tools that the farmers need to make the change. I mean, I don't remember, I'm not a veterinarian, I'm sorry. I don't remember the name of this antibiotic in milk, in dairy, that we use across Europe to when we have a problem of mastitis, but I don't remember which one. And but it was one of the critical antibiotics. Not sure if cephalosporin or Fabiana perhaps can help me, because it was a Belgian example that we had some years ago. Why they were using a kind of antibiotics and not another one? Because they have less time the antibiotics persist in the milk less time, so they could introduce again the cow in the tank. The milk of the cow can go again to the tank after very few days instead of 7 days. And so that's a driving. I mean, when we want to make change, of course, sustainability is a very important point. Animal health is a very important point. One Health, I think everybody is aware about One Health things, but farmers need also economics. So this antibiotic, it was not used by farmers because they wanted to make problems with human health. It's because it was easier for them, because they could introduce again this cow in the rest of the herd for milk production. So we have to provide to the farmers the possibility to find new tools that allow them to find the economics of their farm, keeping animal health and welfare and the rest of the sustainability things. And that's where we are all part of this thing, of this approach. I mean, animal breeding, because I'm representing animal breeding, but we are also in this roadmap project that are tackling other solutions to reduce the use. And after we have the management, the veterinarians, the feeding sector, the appropriate feed, the appropriate buildings, because that's another point also, that's adapted facilities at the farm level. It costs a lot of money, but sometimes it's just a question of ventilation, or I don't know. There are so many things. I think the approach that you were talking, Miguel and Edgar, before, yeah, each farm needs a different plan with the farmer, reflecting with.
Thank you. Indeed, what you say, you have to step back a bit and look on what is behind the decisions that are taken by the farmer. And I think you also refer then to this multi-actor farm health teams that are stimulated by the project to look from different sides and with different expertise to the farm, not the farmer and the feed advisor and the veterinarian, etc. See how can we all together make a step in the right direction. So together with the coach. Edgar, what's your view on this?
I probably will go to an example that I think is kind of parallel. I don't have an electric car, okay, but I do have help from the Irish government to buy one. And my car is petrol, but if I want an electric car, it's going to be almost double the price. So the motivation for Volkswagen or any other brand to produce electric cars is that they're selling something that is a little more expensive and they get the money back and they have a lot of help from the government and all that. So you are making change that probably benefits the society and the producer is getting the reward for that, or their part at least. I think this structure doesn't happen, and we have seen with the war in Ukraine or anything. Petrol is more expensive, goes up for the public. Electricity is more expensive, goes up for the public. Bacon is still the same price.
Yes.
So you cannot pretend that these people do all these changes and they still get the same money because they're doing a huge effort. So whether it is help from the government or whether it is a structure that changed from a commodity to an actual value product, I don't know how we want to do that, but there has to be something there, even recognition as part of the society, as a person that works in agriculture has to have that recognition back, because at the moment it's like more and more is like going to them, let's say, you are doing this and pesticides and antibiotics and let's stick a little bit more car, maybe, I don't know. For me, that is very, very, going back to what Miguel Angel was saying there. The first thing is economics, because these people, I don't know, the farmers that I deal with every day have 4 or 5 million immobilized in the farm. So you cannot pretend that these guys start doing tests in their farms with 4. I wouldn't be able to manage 4 or 5 million every time that I'm there. And now they're losing a month, 25,000, 50,000. If I lose 5,000 in a month, I'm going to be super, super worried. And this guy is 50,000. We will make it. So it's a different level of thinking, and I think that's at the core of the problem, that they have been there already, and they know that they are not going to get anything in for what they are doing for the society. So
if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is, it's a bit too easy to say that the farmer has to solve it by himself alone. And that when we as a society want to have good animal health, good animal welfare, no antimicrobials, no pollution, etc., we have to be willing to pay for that.
Yeah.
You cannot expect that's all done by the farmer for the same budget as he did it years ago.
Yeah.
Some of you want to respond on that?
No, but I absolutely fully agree, because at the end is one of the problems that we have. At the end, the add value of all the advantage that we are doing in our fund is very difficult to also find that consumer that I want to pay more for that. At the end, we have also to try to mix together what is the advantage that we are doing the farm with the communication for the consumer. And also it's not really because we are going to have more money for our products, because it's going to be very difficult, because it's depend of the offer on the demand. But at least we are going to be in the market for the time, because right now we have a lot of pressure for coming from alternatives to our productions. So we have to be sure that this improve that we are doing in the farm arrive to the consumer, that the consumer knows what is the difficulties and the difference of our production day by day, to really be sure that the consumer knows what they're doing in the farm, because it's going to be very easy to change that for the plant-based products or synthetic meat or something like that.
You want to
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, I agree with both of them. Yeah, perhaps the public sector has played a role also in informing better consumers. I mean, the tweet of this morning from the European Parliament suggesting that we are eating antibiotics when we are eating meat in Europe, it's a scandal. That's not the role of public institutions. I mean, after they are saying, yeah, we have one health approach, we have to tackle antimicrobial resistance. Yes, of course, we are all aware here about it. But perhaps there is also something to do from the public sector.
Sure, there's a lot to do also on the public sector, and I think there's a lot of misinformation going around about antimicrobial resistance in relation to the tweet you showed from the parliament about getting resistance bacteria in your body weight by eating meat, from another EU project where we studied the epidemiology of antimicrobial resistance in the food chain. It became very clear that first, well, anyway, the contribution of animal health to the whole issue of antimicrobial resistance is very minor compared to what's going on in the medical world. And then if you look to animals, the biggest risk is the direct contact with animals that are treated, large animals or companion animals, but not through the food chain. It's really not the big risk for consumers. And people who state that in the parliament, they are really wrong. Let's see. In the project, there are several tools developed and information packages, etc., for farmers. How do you think can we support on-farm application of suitable solutions to help to tackle antimicrobial resistance? And to the audience, I would like to say, I'm asking these questions to the people here behind the table, but if you want to ask a question or to react on what they are saying, please feel free and raise your hand. I think it would be interesting to have a bit more interaction with you. And the same applies to people who are here online. So how can we support on-farm application of suitable solutions to help to tackle antimicrobial? Who first?
Not any clue. I think one of the objectives of this project is the design project is the answer of this question is how to help to the farmer to apply new innovation and technology in the farms. One of the things also that Helga had said that in the farm, the economic impact of the new innovation is very high. And then you have to be sure that everything that you implement in the farm is going to be work. How we can do that? We can do a lot of tests in the farms and you can spend a lot of money and also you can get in back ramming your farm because you are failed in a lot of different ways or learn for another farmers. That I think is very important. So we know that there are things that are working in another farmers, maybe in another countries, and it's better the communication farmer to farmer. So a farmer who has already applied something that is working, is very easy to convince to another farmers to do that the same because they are implementing in the farm. So at the end, one of the things that we can try to work to try to support the application is the way that we teach to the farmers. So it's not only the veterinarian, it's not only the advisor, also another farmers is a very good solution. And another thing is the easy of the information that you get it. So for the farmers has not been something very complicated. They don't need a lot of documents and a lot of reports. They need easy information. For the reason also the video is something very easy for the farmers to listen. Another farmer and another veterinarian to make a solution for a problem is something that is directly and very good convinced for the farmers. So at the end, we need to create an easy environment for the farmers to try to apply the innovations, because at the end, some of this innovation is going to cost money. And the farmer has to be absolutely sure that the innovation and the application of the changes that they are going to do in the farm is going to work 100% sure. So, and this is the way that we have to do that. 100% sure that all the things that you are going to implement in your farms is going to work.
Thank you. Edgar?
Yes, I was actually thinking about the question here. There's so many things to say. If I have to pick one thing, probably is, putting the resources in, like, thinking like the resources are limited, especially from places like Commission or whatever. So putting the right resources in the right place, and especially looking at the coordination, like and in this case, for example, there is very interesting examples here that it's a pity that Jean Charles is not here, to be honest, but look, it's where it is. See, for example, if you look at this network, like Disarm is working with a very limited budget because it's a thematic network. And then the Commission and many projects, even at a national level, work a lot with researchers. And still, I don't think that transfer is there at the same level in all the countries. So we maybe have to focus on creating those links in countries that are not at that stage yet. And then, well, here probably we had a very good conversation with Erwin in this. Suddenly you have a project that is, I'm not going to use the word that I would like to use, but let's say not the project that we need. And then you lose 7 or 8 million from the Commission in a project that is not like any researcher that was there. Was like, I was offered to go into the project and I said, no, I don't want to be in this project because it doesn't make sense to me. And then they get the funding. And then another project that we put together with Miguel Angel, they're always saying there has to be a participation of the stakeholders, blah, blah, blah. We put together all the countries in Europe. It's for welfare, but anyway, it applies here. We're going to work together, we enroll the farms, we have everything, and then they come back and say, there is not enough research support here that were for universities and 25 organizations of farmers. So when you have these efforts going on and you have these offers to collaborate and all that, all those resources, if you have the opportunity to put the resources there, take it. Because many times, I would even say some of the people that are looking at these projects are living in the last century. So the farmers need the support, they need the money to bring the technical people and the social scientists and everything into the farm. The more we can, the better, and focus on the farm, Forget about it was useful in the past, but forget about randomized trials and things like that. Go to the farm, push, keep working with the farmers, create in the farm, study what is happening in the farm. And the Commission all that money has to go there. And for me, it's the only way that we're going to go there. You keep pushing. There's no other way. Like.
Okay, thank you very much for your strong statement about where the money should go. Indeed, it's a pity that Jean-Charles is not here, because then I think we would have an interesting discussion. I agree with you that sometimes it can be frustrating when you put a lot of effort in writing and proposal for a project, and in the end it's not a winning project. But I think that should not withhold you from keeping on going and trying again, because otherwise you will get nowhere. So don't be discouraged if sometimes your project is not selected. Anna.
Yes, it's on the same line on the Edgar was talking about. I mean, we in EFAF, we are involved in other research projects. At this moment, we are we are making the knowledge transfer and the stakeholder engagement differently, of course, depending on the project in 8 European projects. And there are many different things, of course, depending on the topic. And here it's a thematic network, so it's very different from a project on genetics, on like Gentor, for example, that is applying for resilience of livestock. And we always wonder within all these projects, and this discussion we had also in Animal Task Force, it is how the European level and the national level interact to take the knowledge that is there at the European level, or perhaps at the national level, because some of the times you don't need big projects of 12 millions like we have now in Horizon Europe to tackle a problem. But what you need is to have this kind of networks and perhaps improve them. And I wondered, and it was more a question I have for you, because I'm following Disarm since the beginning, but more just following it. And how do you, or how we can improve this connection between the European level and the national level to involve everyone? I mean, to involve, of course, farmers, to involve farmers union, to involve other sectors, I mean, the veterinarians and all the professionals around the farmers, but also authorities, because we also need, I mean, we don't need always authorities just punishing farmers because they haven't respect something, but they also need to be trained by authorities when they have a control. We should have, and that's this and reflection we had some years ago in Belgium, because that's my experience on antimicrobial resistance when the AMCRA started in Belgium. And I wondered how we can connect better, not only different member states, but also the European level with the national level and the authorities and all these people around. I don't have the solution, but has to be better connected. That's for sure, because we are losing knowledge. And that's something we discussed before during the coffee break. And we discuss all the time also within ATF. When a project is finished, we stop the whole project, including the dissemination part. And that's a pity, because it's just we rely on the website, on some tweets we have been doing, some videos that are available somewhere. And well, all this knowledge is not, it's everywhere, but it's nowhere at the same time. So how we can continue to fund or to support, because it's not always a problem of money, but well, often, how we can continue to support this knowledge to feed new initiatives and the follow-up on the field. Because at the end of the day, the farmer, I mean, they are trying to swim on even the farmers union, on the advisors around, they are trying to swim in this farm book. How is the name? EU farm book, perhaps is one of the solutions to this. And I'm happy that roadmap is taking a bit the heritage of Disarm, but that is something that the Commission and the national authorities involved in research have to solve.
Yeah, I think it's important that indeed the project doesn't fall down when the 4 or 5 years are over. In that sense, I think it's a good development that we now have this ARMOR partnership where we have these projects working together, also facilitated and supported by the Commission, to see that we can convey the results from these projects to the target audiences, that they will see the results and see how they can use it, because research only for the sake of research is not enough. It should be for how can it be applied in the field, at least with this research that we are, or the projects we are doing here. In relation to the communication at national level and the European level, I also sometimes think when you look, for example, at the use of antimicrobials in the different countries, there are big differences between the countries. And that's not only, that cannot be caused by differences in knowledge in the countries, because this knowledge that is available can be available everywhere. So there are other factors playing a role there. And one way or another, I think we should try to bring these different people in the countries together, and let's see how they can learn from each other. Also in a kind of network, how can they share best experiences and motivate each other to go forward, and not only farmers, but also the whole team that is active at and around the farm. Then another question, if there are no.
If I may.
Yes, please.
If I may, I agree with you that this booster, I mean, in the case of antibiotic projects around antibiotic use, or this ARMOR initiative is a very good thing. I agree with you, and with this communication booster, don't remember the whole name, but we use it also for genetics and for feed nutrition projects, and it's very useful, but it's not automatic. We have to apply for, we have to start again a process in which to say, hey guys, we need to continue to communicate. This should be integrated when you have calls from Horizon Europe in this case. This should be integrated. So the need to continue to communicate for a while after the projects end, and to find partners in other projects around that, that can help on this communication and to ensure this knowledge transfer in the correct way. And this booster communication thing is not automatic. You have to be aware and you have to be very motivated to apply for. That's why I was insisting a bit.
No, it's true. Maybe it's not optimal yet. On the other hand, I think we have to start somewhere. And I think every step is a step that we welcome. But indeed, there is still room for improvement. And maybe also in future calls for new projects, they will integrate a question or something about how you are going to do that and what are your ideas about that. Because indeed, if it only stays within the consortium until the project is over, then we don't achieve our final goal. Oh, thank you. Erin.
Is this working like this? Okay. Okay, yeah, I have it's a question to the panel members or maybe others in the, and I'm seeing myself. That's all right. Yeah, it's still related to, I think, your second question to the whole panel members, how to stimulate farmers to change things. Just like Anna, I'm also not a veterinarian. Unlike her, I'm not going to apologize for not being veterinarian. But yeah, I'm a social economist, and basically how to change what people do is more or less like the core business of what we do. And in terms of types of ways to make or to stimulate people to do something differently, there are many classifications, but let's say to make it simple, is a classification in three things. It's either the stick regulation, like the ban to use antimicrobials as a growth promoter. There is a carrot, economic incentives, and they could be disincentives as well. You could think of a tax on antimicrobials or a subsidy to apply certain practices or to achieve a certain reduction, or like a label with a price premium. And then the third big way is communication and education. And with Disarm, we have been very well or almost exclusively working on that third route, communication, education. We demonstrate that a particular way to communicate and educate farmers, like personalized farm-specific coaching in a multi-actor farm health environment, is really very effective. And we're not the only ones demonstrating that, but actually it's usually effective for those farmers who are voluntarily stepping in a project when there is a project. When a project is paying someone to do this coaching. Nicola also already pointed to the fact that it's difficult for a veterinarian, for instance, to make a business model out of that. So my question is, if this model of communication is so effective, but it's actually outside a project environment, rarely applied, what kind of mechanisms of the other two ways, regulation or economic incentives, could we need to stimulate that? And it's not a quick question to someone particular, but the panel or people in the room, if they have ideas or experiences. Lisa.
Yeah, I'd add like crises, like major upheavals in society or an issue can stimulate mass change as well. Not that you kind of want to lead to that, but we're in a perfect example now. where you can get mass change because of the crisis.
So can you repeat it? Because I think I missed your point.
I was going to add to Erwin's point of the regulation legislation, like the stick, the carrot, and the comms and education. And the fourth one I'd say is like crisis. So pandemic or war, famine, you know, big mass changes can really push a behavior change.
I agree with you. I think that a crisis can help to push people to change their behavior, but I think it's very difficult to induce a crisis to have this behavior change. On the other hand, I must say that, for example, I'm from the Netherlands, that the whole discussion in the Netherlands from the medical sector about antimicrobial resistance has very much stimulated also the veterinary sector, let's say, to think more about the use of antimicrobials. So the public discussion is really important here as well to make people aware. And I think then making people aware is one thing, but the other thing then also is how do you enable people to make this change? Because as you say, we have more questions from society, but it's difficult for the veterinarians to make a business model out of it. Then still the question is there, but we don't have the solution. But maybe someone else. Yes, Anna?
I have a question for Erwin, a question back. I agree with you on the 3 points. But regulation, do you consider in regulation self-regulation? Or it's just banning things or adapting, revisiting legislation in place that we are doing? Because some of the approach that we have in Europe, in different countries to reduce the use of antimicrobials is coming from the sector, with the help of the authorities. So it's more this breeding, balanced breeding that I wanted to show you, I could never did, is also, behind these new breeding programs, it is also a kind of self-regulation. So we have all, not me because I'm representing them, but breeding companies and associations, they have stayed together that they were going to put in place a code of good practice that they are all following. And when are tackling antimicrobial resistance, you have in many countries the sector that is putting themselves objectives to achieve to this reduce of antimicrobial. So in this your first point, regulation is also this self-regulation, or not at all, or you have to add a fifth point to the crisis thing.
Yeah, that's why the splitting up the types of how to make or how to stimulate people to change things in just 3 categories is just too blunt. I mean, in that distinction, regulation really means the government putting certain thresholds or banning stuff or making stuff compulsory. But indeed, self-regulation could be an additional way, in which the sector as a whole moves towards the achievement of certain targets. Although even then, possibly to make people start self-regulating their sector or their value chain, even then you might need maybe the threat of a regulation, or you might need the prospect of an economic incentive to make people start doing that. I don't know for which issue that was, but there was something where, I also don't remember which country, so it's really not much of an example, but when where the government said to a sector, make sure you fix it, otherwise we do it, and we put a regulation. And you have, I don't know, 12, 16 months to make sure you fix the problem. But even then, and that was why my question was there. I mean, the way of communicating we have demonstrated, the way of personalized advice we show is working very well. But I mean, when our project ends, I don't think anyone is going to continue doing that coaching in our country. Or maybe not, maybe someone will, maybe you. But anyway, I mean, it's difficult. And then my question is there is only communicating and information, is that enough? Or do we at some point need another kind of a smart combination of regulation and economic incentive? Or is it going to be enough if we continue to communicate maybe even better than we did so far, to collect knowledge, to spread knowledge? I think that's all very useful, but my question is it enough? And if not, what else do we need?
Yes, thank you. I think it's a very good reflection also for this group, because at the end, and I'm also going to my point of view, at the end, the results, I think, has to be a combination between difference, because right now in Europe, we have maybe the animal health law that is for 2016. Right now, we have the veterinary medicine and also for the medicated feed, that I think is a very good regulation that is not enough, but at the end, increase the level of the people that is a little bit delay. So for me, I think that the regulation allows for try to put all together, not only in a different sector, also between countries, and try to push a little bit. But at the end, the most important for me is how we can stimulate to get an add value with our products. Unfortunately, I think the consumer and also the retailers is not going to pay more. So why we have to do that? By communication, internal communication and external communication. The communication per se is not only for improve ourselves, it's also to show to the consumers and to society that we are doing something different. Because if we show to the consumers and to the society that we are doing something different, maybe we are going to have an add value in our products. To have a direct payment for the farmers, something like that, we like the CAP, something like that, I don't see. Maybe can be dreams and to get any special funding, but I think it's not going to be the direction. I think the direction is going that our improving our fund has to pay our effort. But at the end, we can see, like Anna said, maybe also how by voluntary basic, the farmers are doing things better and better and better. For maybe I'm talking without don't know, but maybe for the breeders it's easier because you are the breeders, as you have a claim, you have a name, and you are put your product in the market. So what does mean? That when we are talking about the farmers, there are different between the farmers that are the starting point in a very long chain, and you are diluted at the end, or the farmers that are involved in a vertical integrated system, that the label that you have in the products is also the label in the farm. So you are more motivated because at the end you are going to have not a best result. Maybe you are going to have a lack of the consumption if you are doing something wrong in your farm. So at the end, I think it's a combination, but unfortunately, from my point of view, the economic stimulation has to be carried by communication, to try to promote to the consumer to know more and more and more about what is our best results.
Yeah, just trying to drop in the conversation. It's quite interesting. Well, first of all, I wanted to say, like, I agree that there are several routes to basically try to stimulate change. I don't know whether I would put you know, like the regulation in the box of the sticks, while the economic incentives would only be the box of the carrots, because European agricultural policies is made of a lot of carrots. I mean, a lot of subsidies are also, you know, publicly funded, and the other way around, you know, the antibiotic-free labels that we are studying in roadmap, even if they start with carrots, they tend as well to exclude some farmers from market access and stuff like that. So they can also act as sticks. But the question perhaps I wanted to add to that, also reflections coming from the interviews and everything we've done in the project, is that how do we motivate people to be influenced either by sticks or by carrots? Because and also is the reduction of antimicrobial use and a sufficient kind of motivation, and is it a mean or is it an end, basically? Because a lot of people, the farmers but also the consumers, you know, are sometimes also considering that it makes sense if reducing antimicrobials, you know, make us move toward the greater end, you know, and this is the greater end and not just the mean that is really motivating the people to change, and perhaps even the consumer to pay for something. And this is something that we can even see the evolution. I'm talking again about the evolution of these antibiotic-free labels and with a specification that we studied, especially in France, but I know that some work has been done as well in Italy about that, that we can see that 5-6 years ago, I mean, antibiotic free, or basically the reduction or the prudent use of antimicrobials was basically the only practice that was trying to be valued through these kind of products. And now the consumer and even the farmers, you know, like if you look at the specification, the label, they are promising much more than just that, you know, like sustainable agriculture or agroecological practices where basically prudent use is one dimension of a greater change in our farming practices, and I think that is very important to take that into account. And I'm not saying that we don't do that, especially in disarm. I'm sure, you know, like all the tools that are being promoted to reduce antimicrobials that could be perceived actually as a global change, and I think that is very important to communicate on that, both for the farmers, but perhaps the consumers and everyone to be able to feel sensitized by sticks or carrots. Yeah.
So also how you make your the efforts that you make, how you make them visible to the end consumer. I saw 2 more hands here. Yeah.
I was just going to go back to the consumer paying more or having more of an economical payback for the farmers. The groups that always get, I feel like, forgotten about or got off the hook are the big food companies or the other people in the food supply chain who hold a lot of the power and a lot of the money. And they're not usually in these sort of projects. They're not the target of kind of any kind of change initiative. And they ultimately are the ones sucking in quite a lot of the money that could either subsidize the price for the consumer or could pay the farmer a better price. And I wonder how when it comes down to microbial stewardship, we've got to look at the people like Cargill, Tyson, McDonald's. Otherwise, we're, you know, fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, I was just thinking actually.
Maybe you can. Does everyone know?
Oh, sorry. It's David John, Animal Health Europe, and I'm speaking completely out of my knowledge in terms of my job. This is sort of more general, but I think going back to the point about who takes over the coaching role that Disarm have been doing in the future, and I don't know what the current situation is, but in the past, ministries of agriculture used to have agricultural advisors that went to farms to sort of teach farmers and tell them what to do. Yeah, maybe that's something, they could be encouraged to do more of that Disarm coaching role in the future.
I think we have a very interesting discussion, and where Anna just was apologizing not being a veterinarian. I now feel that I have to apologize being a veterinarian, because it's very difficult to get into this more communication and sociology discussion. Who has further reactions or answers to the question from Erwin? How do we really get the things a step further? How do we really motivate people? By a stick, a carrot, communication, education? What else can you think of?
So I'm Elias Hanziaras from Ghent University. So what I was thinking is we can use a successful example. So maybe we did it for surveillance of antimicrobial use and resistance. We were saying about DANMAP, about successful projects. We have again it's again the usual suspect countries. Again, the Netherlands have really kind of revolutionized the role of the veterinarian in animal production, mainly focusing on coaching and the things that we say now about how to reduce antimicrobial use, and they're getting paid for it. So it's a successful business model, at least I hope. Also in Denmark, it's also been the case that people really have turned their heads and have focused more on preventive veterinary medicine and about coaching. So maybe we can kind of highlight these countries and example from, especially for the veterinarians, and maybe that can inspire other veterinarians, especially, yeah, at first in Belgium, neighboring countries, Germany, and maybe it will become quicker, the change. So I don't really see a quick way to turn the mindset of the veterinarian and the farmer, but maybe if we use these successful examples, it can go quicker.
Yeah, we can see how we can go quicker. On the other hand, I think we also don't have to be too shy about what has been achieved over the past years. I think we can complain about a lot, and there's a lot of room for improvement. On the other hand, I think in several countries, a lot of changes have been made. And if you look to the SFAC reports, the use of antimicrobials in the animal sector in Europe has gone down, I think now by 43% in the last report all over. So we also maybe should celebrate the things that go well instead of only mentioning the things that don't go that well. Yeah. But maybe people have other suggestions or more suggestions.
I fully agree with you, Jan, if I may. That's a good point we have often with the scientific community of Animal Task Force and FABER-TP and Animal Genetics Sciences, that we have to be careful on the way we address an issue that research, of course, is going to try to solve. On the wording we use to introduce a topic is something that we are searching within this community, and how to learn to draft in a more positive way, as you were saying. Okay, we have achieved this, still progress to do. Let's continue to make innovation, research, or networking with farmers or whatever. But the wording at the beginning is often the only thing that policymakers read. And at the end of the day, that's livestock is a horrible problem. So I agree with you on this point that we should communicate better what we have already done, not saying that it's solved, but to build the future in a better way, without making also this competition between systems, because this is also harmful for the whole sector. My 2 cents.
Yes, yeah, Jan, I agree that sometimes I hear that maybe in human medicine they could sometimes learn a thing or two from what has been achieved in veterinary medicine. Now, in that respect, I do know that in the ESVSC report, like total use, also average use in a country or sector has gone down quite a lot in many countries. However, unless I'm mistaken, in many countries, the average use is more and more a use which doesn't really exist, but is the result of a very large group using quite little, and then a group which is still using quite a lot. And then this is maybe a question then for which you do need to be a veterinarian. Do we need to focus on reducing total use or average use, or do we maybe now in the next couple of years need to shift our focus to those maybe small segments in each sector who are still, or each country, who are still using quite a lot? Or is it okay if we just, I mean, the farm to fork ambition is just reducing by 50% total volume. But is that enough? Or is it really still a problem that there is this small group? And do we need to focus on them and how to reach them? Because those are probably quite often farmers that are not in our projects or that don't visit our events, etc. Oh, sorry.
Yes, I have in Spain this reflection to talking about the quantity or the quality. So, because at the end, for sure, we in the last 5 years, we have a reduction in 60% of the consumption of antibiotics, but we still have a high consumption of tetracycline and penicillin. And also the question is, okay, we are going to reduce these antibiotics for the category D, and we are going to change to category B that you need less quantity. At the end, the problem of the formula that we use to the calculation of the consumption of antibiotics, I think is wrong, because at the end you are going to calculate by milligrams, but not for molecules. So I agree with you that we have also to split the different families of antibiotics and make a comparison, because at the end I think the most important is to try to reduce the antibiotics of category B, that is of course the more critical antibiotics, that is the most important right now for the humans. So, and maybe for the heard that we had of the sounds that come from the Commission, some of antibiotics of the animal production is going to move for the category A, so maybe we are going to lose some antibiotics. So for me, the reflection is clear to know exactly what are we looking for. If we are looking for a quantity of the reduction of a 50%, it's easier. We are going to start to use more fluoroquinolones or something like that, and then the quantity that you are used as lower, because for the same treatment of the animals, you can use maybe this quantity of milligrams of fluoroquinolones and this quantity of use of tetracyclines. So it's up to you, and you are doing properly. But at the end, the formula shows that you are better if you are using this quantity. But maybe it's for antibiotics of the category B. So at the end, we have to be clear what is the objective of the Commission. Is it the total reductions or the quality reduction? Maybe the Commission are going to say both of them for sure. But at the end, we have to have a correct way to the farmers, because, and I have another reflections. When we are talking about the use of antibiotics, and if we ask for the consumers, I don't know if we are going to have enough room, as Edgar comparison said, with the electric car. The company that are producing the electric car say, okay, I produce petrol and diesel car, and I have an objective in 10, 15, 20 years to move in another possibility. So to the electric or maybe hydrogen, whatever you want. And the consumers say, okay, you do it. You have 20, 30 years. What we are going to happen with the farmers if we ask to the consumer to say, okay, what do you want? Zero antibiotic production, or still to have antibiotic production during 20 years? Maybe the results is that we have not this time that another has, like for example, the electric cars. They have a lot of time to do that, but maybe the consumer is saying, no, I would like to know the result right now. And it's a very huge problem for the farmers.
Clear point. I first want to go to the lady over there. She has her hand in the
Thank
air.
you very much. My name is Mette Vorst. I work at Aarhus University in Denmark, and I also work in Roadmap project. So I'm always thrilled to hear Denmark being mentioned as a good example. Thank you very much. I want to highlight that even in Denmark, there is a huge span between the good and the less good. There's still a long walk to walk. And I think that, one example is I have worked with organic farmers in Denmark, and who have actually managed to reduce antibiotics quite considerably, sometimes down to zero for several years, and being blamed for not always treating responsibly. So it's like, I mean, this is a balance. But I also, this has been highlighted by a lot of the panelists also, but I think one of the issues is really to not reduce this to being a problem of vets and farmers. And I think that that is also one of the approaches we have in Roadmap, where we have a multi-actor approach. Because when I hear references to farmers, I see people walking on their fields and taking care of the animals and so on. But we also have to acknowledge that we have some farm structures that pushes everybody in the farm. I mean, we have farm owners, we have farm managers, we have a lot of levels, we have migrant workers, and sometimes to, for instance, make it easier to manage the daily life, there are some instructions that make it easier to use antibiotics. That's just one example of the very complex structures in farms, but also in the surrounding societies. What is the role of abattoirs? What is the role of dairy companies? What is the role of inspectors? So it is really a multi-actor thing. We should not reduce it to become a problem for farmers and veterinarians. It's something we have all been a part of for 70, 80 years or more. And then about the crisis is there, right? So we don't need to look for it. And again, I mean, being a part in a Danish like agricultural landscape, it's like we don't want to see it as a crisis because it's not really a crisis for us, but it is because we're also using antibiotics that is produced somewhere where it is leading to leak into the environment and things like that. So we don't need to invent a crisis.
Indeed, good point. Then I wanted to look at Paula, but she disappeared.
Yeah, Paula told me that has to go to her office just 1 minute, and there was time to finish this part. So she's back in 1 minute.
Okay. Then until Paula is back, I would like to invite the three of you to make a brief final statement about the discussion and maybe something you want to it's burning that you want to give as a take-home message to everyone here in the room or online with us. I'll start with you.
Always me the first. The Finnish measures, I think that of course the reduction of the use of antibiotics is a necessity. It's not possible to leave the farmer alone. So we need to be with the farmer, with the veterinarian, with the advisors, and all the chains, and also like the last speaker has speaking about that all the industry has to be together in the same directions, because at the end, the communication, the shared experience is something of the positive way to try to reach our objective. That at the end, the objective is to reduce the need of the use of antibiotics, because at the end, the most important is how to help to the farmer to increase the sanitary status of the farm and don't need the use of antibiotics. But in this reason, in this objective, all the stakeholders and all the people have to be involved in the same way. Don't leave the farmer alone in this way. And I think the communication, share experience, and a little bit more involved for the chains can be a very good option to reach our objective.
Yeah, I will. Can I add, don't leave alone professionals around farmers? Because it's the same. I mean, and focusing again on veterinarians, but some of the time, the veterinarians in the field, they don't have all the tools alone and the information to help the farmer to take decisions. So we have really to trust everyone and to keep on going everyone. And yeah, I think we are all part of the solutions in plural. She's back.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I really think that we have many examples that are successful, and we can learn from them, but we have to be careful that what is working in one region perhaps is not working in another one. So the copy paste is also complicated. So let's keep these successful examples to learn from and to adapt to, I mean, what is happening in Denmark with a very small country, very well communicated. You cannot use it in Romania or in Spain when you have kilometers around, when you have only one veterinarian for. So let's try to learn, but without pushing, to trying to adapt. And here you are the community that can help on how to adapt when it has been successful in one place to another place, or even between different farmers that they are not going to be able to implement the same way of improving or reducing the use of antimicrobials. So yeah, the European, the national level are important, but let's keep also ongoing the community around in a region. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then
I'm gonna try to make it short, but I totally agree that what Urin is saying there is the way to go. Is the communications and making for all the professionals making a living of, not especially the veterinarians, because they are the ones that prescribe, making a living out of the advice and not really prescribing. Obviously, that has to be broken down into different countries because it's a different situation when the veterinarian is making money of selling and or not, if there is an integrated vertical structure or not, those kind of things. But I think that's and I am hopeful that can be done, and that's my main message for me after this. That's the way to go, to create that structure, and we are working like that in Ireland, and I believe we will get there at some point. I don't know if it is carrot or a stick, but there's one thing that for me is very important is the change when the veterinarian is, well, we have to do these questionnaires and assessments and all that. Let's do it. And there is a moment when you are with him in or with her in that farm, and it becomes a challenge and it becomes a question of pride. I don't know if it is carrot or, but it's pride there that we are going to make it. It's a little bit like Yoda. There is no try, you know, you do it. We are going to do it, period. And in that sense, I'm going back, and I'm lately in the last year or two, I'm very critical because I'm learning a little bit more about how they work. I'm very critical with the governments in general. I have now we have a round table with the minister, and it's very, very poor approach, to be honest. Like it's horrible. Anyway, hopefully he's hearing me. One thing, for example, that for me as a veterinarian, I would like to see, and I don't see the problem why we cannot do in Europe. We had COVID, and every country, like lately, the last 5 years, I have been collecting data and creating apps and things like that for biosecurity and for this, for that. And then I see every country has a different COVID app, and they don't talk to each other. And now they don't know how to manage the information. And the HSE, the health service in Ireland, doesn't talk to the other guy in the Ministry of Health, and they don't share. Like, I had a person from the health service in Ireland asking me when I was vaccinated. I say, man, you don't have a computer in front of you. Get my name and get it. Whoever put that together is an idiot. Sorry. And no, sorry. Like, they are paid for that. If you don't know how to do it, go away and I do it. Like, the fact that we are not proposing at the moment a database for the prescription electronic at a European level it doesn't make sense to me. The lack of ambition, the uselessness of the government. Like, when I'm discussing, I come from Spain, where they have already gone through the manual process, and they told me, this guy here, go for electronic because it's the way to go. He told me 5 years ago. And I go to the minister in Ireland, go for electronic because Miguel Angel told me, you have to go for electronic. They have already been 5 years doing that. And we could even share the system from Spain. No, we're going to try manual. 5 years after we had the meeting last November, we're going to go for electronic.
5 years. I think a clear point. I hope the message will get through to the people who have to work with it. But again, I want to say it's good to highlight the, let's say, the failures, but we should not forget about the positive things that we have done over the years. I think as a last thing, I would like to thank all of you for your questions. I must say we haven't addressed even the half of the questions I have on my list, so I could keep you for an hour more if you want, but I'm not going to do that. I also want to thank all of you for your attention and for your interventions and your questions. And with that, I would like to hand back to Paula again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists. Thank you to Jan for the moderation. So we are quite on schedule. So now for the closing remarks, I will call on Erwin again. Many thanks for the panelists.
Yes, thank you, Paula. For my closing remarks, I have prepared a presentation of about 20 slides. No, just kidding. I will be short. And just on behalf of the whole Disarm Consortium, thank you for being here today, but also I see many faces that I have seen somewhere, some of them digital, of course, in the last couple of years, but means that many people have been following Disarm throughout its entire lifespan, and not just today. Jan, but I don't see Jan for the moment. Jan, you congratulated me. And of course, I'm only human. I'm very happy to receive praise and stuff. But actually, I think I should extend or transfer those congratulations to the whole Disarm team for doing the whole work. I think as an maybe coordinator on paper, I have become much more coordinator on paper and not in practice anymore. Basically, yeah, it was all running very well. There are a few people, of course, who organized all of this today, and also tomorrow we have our last project meeting, because even 1 month or a bit more than 1 month before the end, there's still a few stuff to discuss. Some of them administrative, but luckily there's also some more scientific stuff or about content that we still need to discuss. And then in the afternoon, there is the policy event. So also thanks to everyone in the Disarm team who has been involved in setting that up. And then maybe the last, what is it, more than 1 year, Helena, maybe you should, are you hearing me? Maybe you should stand up so that everyone can see you, because it's actually Helena from ILVU who has been, how much more, the last 1 year and a half, like the real coordinator of Disarm. So congratulations and all the praise that I got to you. So, and with that, I thank you for coming, and I wish you a very nice evening, and keep following us for the last couple of weeks we have. Keep following Armor and the other projects that have been presented here today. I think all of them will, in a combined effort, I think, produce very good insights and material that all of you can use. And then hopefully, Mette, we can solve the crisis we're in. And then we have done something good with the money that has been given to us. So thank you, and have a nice evening.